Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
This is PBA champion Kyle Troop, and you're listening to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. As you know, JP Jr. used to be introduced as the sexiest man in bowling, and now the world. But he doesn't have the best hair in the world. I do. Sorry, bud, but you know the deal. Pick it out. Fear the fro, baby.
Welcome to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. A hard-hitting, in-depth, cutting-edge look into the world of bowling. This podcast will not only cover all things bowling, but will also give you a raw look into real-life issues. You'll get unfettered access into the mind of one of the most gifted bowlers of this or any other generation. So without further ado, let's introduce you to the hosts of the show. Rad Rob, Rob Francois. Rad Rob, Rob Francois. Dr. Ocho. Dr. Ocho. And the incomparable Johnny Petraglia Jr. Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. Nico Pujar is here. Welcome, Nico. Welcome everyone here on YouTube and Johnny's Facebook page, as well as my Twitter page at Rad Rob Gaming, our show page at Straight Up 5 Podcast, and at Rad Rob Radio Network on Twitter, or X, whatever they call it now. This is episode number 99. Did I mention who I am? I am your host, Rad Rob, Rob Francois. That's correct. That is my name. I hit the wrong button. I sure do. Let's introduce our first well, they're both in the same place. So here's Ocho and Johnny. See, I didn't do at all. See, isn't that good? Hi, guys. You're muted, dumbass. Okay, I see your guns, but I can't hear your... I can't hear you! You're muted! Fucking ass. All right, I'll just carry on the show by myself. You guys just sit there and look retarded.
Hey, everybody. Randy Santel here. Atlas with Atlas and Juice Promotions and proud owner of FoodChallenges.com. Extra excited to be here today. I'm going to take on this bowling podcast with Johnny Petraglia Jr. That's an inside joke, by the way.
It is very...
Boys and girls, I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm backing him with it. Pleasure to see everybody again. And it's a pleasure to be here for our 99th episode.
And we're canceled after this week, by the way. Just so everybody knows, there will be no one other episode.
No one, yeah, it doesn't matter. Brian Hara, Nico, Ricky Smith, what's up, guys? What's up, Johnny? What's up, Oj? Good to have you guys here.
It's great to be here, Rob.
P-Cow.
Some greatness. Other than Ocho, we have Mrs. Ocho and little Gabriella doing some work right behind us. It's going to be another great show and a great night. And very premature thank you to everybody that's here tonight. And looking forward to a great show.
Derek Meach
That's
show.
Obviously the nugget that's really excited that we just started.
Yeah, of course.
She's the biggest fan of the show.
We have a lot to cover. There's a lot has happened in the last week. Let's start with the opening round of the 2024 PBA Players Championship. Round 2 is going on right now as we speak on Bowl.tv. You can watch that after you watch this show, as you can watch anything on Bowl TV in their archives at any time. But we appreciate y'all being here. Johnny, we have the first round results today. 6 games of qualifying. Any surprises that are in the top 24 right now?
Surprise, no. I'm surprised about a couple other things other than who's in the top 24. But contrary to normal, Johnny, I have actually a lot of positives to say about the opening of the PBA Tour season.
Okay.
So whenever you want me to at least dive in to start the first convo, we may as well.
Real quick, do you want your shirt to read forward or backward? Because I can change that to read forward.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. I mean, I
was wondering who Reltuk was, but okay, that makes sense now. Okay.
Reltuk. Yeah, well, that's from Braveheart.
I
wear the brand that sponsors me and the brand that I sponsor pretty much on every show.
Can you switch seats though? Because him on the left really fucked me up.
Nope. You need to persevere, Rob.
You know what? I'm with Rob. Can you just put the shirt backwards again?
Oh, criminy.
Yeah, whatever you got to do. It just doesn't.
All right, Reltuk.
Oh, by the way, hold on. As we speak here, I just got a notice from Popeyes. I'm just saying.
Oh, shocking.
Excellent.
Shout out to Popeyes for watching the show.
What do you have to do for 1,000 points at Popeyes?
What is he? He's already done it. I mean,
you have to sit in the drive-thru line on Saturdays?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know. I can't. It's a family show. It's a family show.
I think just your medical doctor would be able to tell us, really, if that's a.
You are my medical doctor, dumbass.
No. I violated HIPAA because I told everybody. So I'm good with that. And I'm totally fine with that. I'm fine with the penalties.
That's fair. Kucharski, Chad, is it Lush? Lushi? Is he Lush? Does he drink a lot, Johnny?
He is not a Lush. He's a fantastic bowler. And we'll definitely dive into his run at Team USA trials at some point today because it's a little bit more contradictory than what I would like to open with the Players Championship. And I feel like it should be brought to the light. I mean, again, I've never bowled Team USA trials, so I can't be partial one side or the other to the coin, but much like Jeff Riggles, I appreciate the stories involved with the selection committee when it comes to that.
Troy already says we're doing a great show, so we're already in the good.
Thank you, Troy.
Oh, we loved you too, man. Have a great night.
Thank you, Troy.
We'll see you
U.S. champ in the house. U.S. champ in the house. Nico says it's the first week. I'm not sick.
So the inside joke is now an outside joke because it's become factual evidence.
That's true. Johnny, what is a Cortez Schneck and why should we be watching him?
Is that a real question?
No, it really is. I have no idea who that is. It's a really weird name.
I thought that was on the chat.
Is that your way of leading into the Players Championship in Wichita at good old North Rock Lanes?
It is. He's in second place right now. He threw a 300 his first game. That's
threw a 300 his first game twice. Cortez was not in the main field and bowled 300 the first game, or it may not be the first game, but Cortez bowled 300 in the PTQ as well as game one of the tournament. So. And the reason I'm going to leave it here, I'm not going to go nuts on Cortez because the big picture of at least the story I have in my brain about the players is way different. But Cortez is one of the best players on the planet and one of the best future stars the sport has to offer. And it's only fitting that he not only made it through the PTQ, but is also performing the way that he usually performs when it comes to the tournament field. So hats off to Cortez on a pair of 300s to open up the 2024 PBA season. And
sounds like the story's set almost for this guy. You know, like you have to do a little bit, and then all of a sudden you just ramp it up, and boom, here he is.
Sure. And I mean, he's already been on television once, and he'll be on television plenty more times. And contrary to the new norm, he's a standard bowler. Granted, he's got a very high rev rate, high ball speed, but one arm and 2 fingers in the finger holes and 1 in the thumb hole. So it's pretty cool to see another Bill O'Neill, Mike Fagan, Francois Lavoie, Chris Prather, Andrew Anderson type bowler kicking ass outside the new norm of two-handed bowling.
No, I know who he is. It was a bad joke. That's what I do. That's my thing.
There's a new definition. We call them Rob jokes.
You sold it very well. I mean, I definitely thought that it was a true question. So.
I thought it was someone wrote in the chat. So
thank you so much. All right, so Johnny, what do you want to get into of what you've enjoyed so far for the start of the season?
All right, so I did for all of our viewers and for Ocho, because I didn't say this to Ocho, I definitely spoke with Rob about this before the top of the show.
What up, Chuck?
Contrary to normal Johnny P, I would like to talk about the pros that I see from the first round of qualifying heading into round 2 of qualifying.
Sure.
And the reason I want to visit the pros is a lot of times on this show, I go out of my way to identify the negatives. I try and figure out things that are wrong with bowling or ways to improve it and this and that. And I just wanted to give you all like 10 cents about what I felt about watching day 1 on Bowl TV, courtesy of Rob's account. And probably shouldn't say that too loud because
well, we got the IP address vanisher. Don't worry. And you saying the negative stuff isn't on you. It's on everybody. It's on us. It's on the chat as far as because we want improvement with it. So you're not talking negative in just because like, hey, here's bowling and this is what we have. It's how do we make it better and what's going on with it and here's the issues why and here's what needs to be improved. So that's kind of the nature of the show. So by all means, don't. I'm all for self-deprecation, but you're not a negative guy. You point out facts, and now you're going to point out other facts.
Sure. Thank you. The first few things that I would like to point out, aside from the obvious, I'll get back to the 78 hardness urethane in a minute. But where I would like to start is I know it's the Players Championship, so we have a major. It may be a retroactive major that was only introduced as a major title less than 10 years ago, or around 10 years ago when Parker won in 2013. So I do like the idea of the exemplary field. I like the idea of the PTQ. I like the idea of the points for predecessors to get into the tournament. I like all of that. I have been watching intently of what's really, really happening because I'm very curious to see how the season goes. We've had a lot of fantastic pros on the show. We've had Ryan Simonelli. We've had, Marshall Ken. I mean,
Jacob Buttroff.
The list goes on and on of
Danny.
bowlers.
I mean, we've had old timers, Danny Wiseman. I don't mean old timers, but like we've had
This guy.
Absolutely.
We've had a mixture of plenty of guys on here. But Andrew Anderson's brother was on here the one time.
Yes,
that's right. It was
correct. We did have Matt.
Matthew.
Matt, that's terrible.
That's great. That's actually
Andrew Anderson's brother. Yeah, that's good.
But
job.
here's what I want to say for the good first. First of all, so obviously the bowlers are competing in their second round of qualifying on day 1 in Wichita, following the PTQ, which warranted 20-something players to make it in, or 30-something players. So the players that should have made it in, which, by the way, I would like to send a couple kudos to the following names. David Haynes, who has not only been a mentor and a friend, but a brother for the 12 years that I lived in Vegas. So to see David Haynes make it is truly awesome to me, and I'm sure we'll see plenty more of him throughout the course of the year. But there's several other players in there that are in the main field at the Players Championship. And this year, the big question was, with the elimination of the Purple Hammer, forget the pitch black, and I'll mention Storm and Brunswick or Hammer or the Brands of Brunswick on this altogether. We eliminated the idea that the softer bowling balls were going to be what dictates who makes it to the top, right? And the coolest part for me, the first good thing I want to say is if you look at the top 24, it's all different kinds of bowlers. We have lefties that curve it. We have righties that throw it straight. We have righties that curve it. We have two-handers. We have one-handers. We have thumb in. We have thumb out. We have all different kinds of bowlers.
I love this bar. We have one-handers. We have two-handers. No thumbers and finger holders. You know the song by Toby Keith? Come on, I had it. Sorry, dude. I was
never heard it.
Well, you know what I meant. I thought somebody would at least like run with it. Go ahead. My bad.
At least we don't have friends in low places.
Oh, I get it. Like that guy.
Not the right song. It's not the right song, but I was close.
Sorry. That's sorry.
The top 24 or top 32, or actually let me open up my shit here and tell you how many. It's the top 24 that are included are all talented bowlers from every aspect of the game. I'm going to feed off of that, and I'm going to try and introduce this question to the public. And I talked to Stephanie about this earlier because she is always the first person that I talk to when it comes to something that's moderately controversial. This is the first year that purple urethanes or any soft hardness, anything is just not allowed in bowling. So coming in March, now that it's all public knowledge, is Brunswick, or the Brands of Brunswick, has released the 78 hardness Black Pearl Hammer urethane. Thank you, Rob. That was actually surprisingly,
Perfect timing.
amazingly quick, since I didn't say shit before the show started.
But
But while we're looking at the picture, we virtually have a purple hammer here with a harder shell, same two-piece combination, same weight block, same everything. On the other side of this coin is we also have 78 hardness IQ, the red one, which is a solid. So let's just at least start here. We went from a pitch black to a 78 hardness IQ, both solids, and we went from a purple urethane hammer to a black pearl hammer with a little bit harder hardness. Brunswick and the Brands of Brunswick decided to stick with the pearlization, and Storm decided to stick with the solid version of the two most successful urethane bowling balls in the history of bowling. Now, I will say this contrary to where I'm starting. It's very rare that in a field of 88 players that the 24th place guy is averaging 231 or is plus 217 through 7 games. Scores are astronomically high for a major. But the difference in games, as I said at the top of the show, displays a lot of different bowlers, which, let me just name a few. We have BJ Moore atop the list, who, BJ, we haven't seen in a while other than the Elias Cup. So great to see BJ atop the list. Followed by him, who is a standard high-rev righty, we've got Packy Hanrahan at a two-handed lefty through 7 games. Followed by one of the best amateurs I've ever seen coming out of the Vegas area in TJ Rock, a standard right-hander. Followed by Cortez Schenk, Rookie of the Year, and Mitch Houpe to round out the top 5. This, again, guys, this is through 7 games. I may be a little bit behind on what I'm saying. But right behind them, you have Chris Prather, Tommy Jones, Darren Tang, Brandon Bonta, Team USA, Joe Grondin, and then here come the other lefties, Jesper Svensson, Graham Fa, followed by Chris Barnes, Marshall Kent, Elias Cup champion Frank Snodgrass, major champion Tom Smallwood, Chris Kelso, another lefty, Anthony Nair, and so on down the list. The game hasn't changed that much in the variety of what it offers to the game's elite. Contrary to the top of the leaderboard, Rob, and this is where I'll slow down because I know I'm already talking too much because, again, I have so much to say about this. And I really try and, shut my shit up, but every once in a while the Italian East Coast comes out of me. You also have some of the greatest bowlers in the world at the bottom of this list. And I'm talking about former guest on our show, Ryan Simonelli. We have Michael Martell, runner-up at the USBC Masters last week. One of my dearest friends who I mentioned at the top of the show, David Haynes. Ronnie Russell, Francois Lavoie, and Andrew Anderson comprise 6 of the 8 guys at the bottom.
And Butters in 75th.
So the big question at the top of the PBA season was what was going to be different once these new balls were introduced. And watching the show today, in the early going, it didn't look that much different to me. The guys who were precise, like a Francois Lavoie, still had a chance. Now, granted, when I watched the first 6 games, I would say 75% of the bowlers I watched comprised of throwing either the new Black Hammer or the new 78 UIQ. Legit. The few balls that I distinctly remember being thrown down the lane that were resin bowling balls were Sean Rash, who bowled fantastic today, throwing a Tour Dynamics. I watched Tim Foy switch to a mindset and move in and bowl 6 consecutive 220-plus games after a horrible opening game.
Yeah.
It's available to everybody. So I'm going to give kudos to Start in the respect that I think the elimination of these softer urethane bowling balls allowed the integrity of the pattern to stay stable for a little bit longer.
Right.
I thought that was really, really, really cool to watch in the early going. Very similar to, the urethane eras in the late 80s when Amleto Monticelli and Pete Weber were the guys to beat because they could figure out a way to manipulate the urethane ball for the pattern they were bowling on, as opposed to guys like Tom Milton and Bob Hanley and guys like that who were kind of stuck in one zone. Brian Voss was probably the equivalent to, say, a David Ozio in that time where he could get we'll call it left to the fourth hour or right of the second. Del Ballard is another one, another prime example of the guy who's mimicking what's happening now. So what I definitely want to start the show with here is simply by saying that I'm enjoying the integrity of the game with the addition of the harder urethane bowling balls. Do I personally think the scoring pace has changed? No. Do I personally think it's elevated or demeaned a certain player in any means? No, I certainly don't. The biggest thing that I've noticed so far is that everybody's more so on a level playing field to start the event. And from there, whoever makes the best adjustments or the best moves is going to come out on top. Very similar to the day of the PBA in the late 80s and early 90s.
Right.
Feed off that or bring me some comments, Rob. Let's start here because I'm definitely going to feed in the other direction like I normally do, but this is very important to me because I'm at a point in my life at the ripe old age of 39 where I know I'm not good enough to beat those guys, but I know at some point I was with a trick. But right now, we're kind of falling back into not only who's got the best look to start, but who makes the best and most precise moves at the right times.
Typically,
yeah,
Simo and Belmo.
Correct.
Which is funny to see them towards the bottom after the first round, but it looks like Belmo's starting to make a run. He's up to 38th. But, I mean, you have somebody who's consistent right now, which is Packy. Packy had a great first round, and after 8 games, he's in second place. Now, a lot of people gave him a lot of crap last year for just being Mr. Purple Hammer. Well, now that he's not using that, he's in second place at a major right now. So if he stays consistent, let's just say he makes the step ladder, will he get any respect at all? Because right now, I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves.
He will. Respect is earned over time. I'm sure that if Pete Weber's last name wasn't Weber in his first few years on tour, we'll talk from like the age of 17 to 22, then nobody would have looked at him either. I mean, or nobody would have looked at Chris Barnes if he wasn't like all-star of the year every single year at Wichita.
Right.
I mean, that's going to come with time, but from the introductory standpoint of the event, I like the variety in the top 24.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ryan
Barnes is bowling very, very well.
And Ryan's right outside. Well, he was right outside the number. But here brings me to. Right, sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
And so he's in 12th right now. His dad's in 20th, so they're above the cut right now.
Oh wow,
he's a two-hander, right?
He must have had a couple of huge games this set. If we're talking about Ryan Barnes,
wrong button.
He's a two-hander, right?
Yes, he is.
278, 238, 280 were his last 3 games.
Oh, then okay. So he's obviously figured it out this second set.
Yeah.
Now I will give you my last 10 cents. And I promise I'll make it shorter than my intro here.
No, you're fine.
Because I respect and love a lot of things that Ryan Schaefer has to say, and he wrote something on social media earlier that
I saw it.
That made sense to me because I was thinking about it prior to him writing it. And then Danny Wiseman, another one of our shows, our guests on the show, also commented. They both said the same exact thing that I messaged to Steph earlier. I said, scores are a little high for a major. And what I mean by that is there's 88 bowlers in the main field, and 24th place after the first 6 games was averaging 231.
Yeah.
So let's call it 186 over at a 231 average, which means almost 35% of your field throughout 6 games of the event is averaging 8 out of 12 strikes a game. That's a lot.
And normally it'd be about
a major
200 average or something for maybe 210-ish.
Well, let's call it 215. Let's call the old U.S.
Well,
Open.
I was going to say, I was thinking of the U.S. Open flat pattern, but that's even a more brutal thing. So whatever,
Let me just throw something out real quick.
Up normally, it's a very shot-making thing in play. Be smart, make your spares.
Let me just throw something out real quick. Out of 88 bowlers, 5 of them are in the minus.
Right. And 3 of the guys under are sensational bowlers.
Yeah.
We all know how I feel about Michael Martell, but when it comes to his bowling talent, he's second to none. He's a fantastic player. He gives more heart and devotion than anybody I really know.
Agreed.
To see him go 100 under doesn't make sense to me, especially when there's lefties that are 200, 250 over.
Yeah.
What was I about to say before you? I was going to say
you were talking about the so many people being at 231. It was at 231.
It's a little too high. The pattern in this case, if you've taken away the element of the trick bowling ball, the scoring pace for this event is a little too high. It's been a little bit too high in a lot of events over the course of the last 10 years. We've seen astronomical qualifying numbers at the Tournament of Champions, especially when it was held at Red Rock,
right?
Where the high-speed, high-rev guys really just dominated the competition. But in an event like this, they look like it's hard to go high. If anything, the only problem the bowlers have to face this week is if they leak it a little bit too wide, but it always gets to the headpin.
Yeah.
You see a random 5-count PBA washout here and there, but most of the time, when they miss out, let's call it
210 maybe, or
2 boards at the arrow,
or
so it equates to 4 boards down lane. They're leaving them 2-8-10 as a righty, 3-7-9 as a lefty.
I can't believe I got that right, by the way.
You did. It was sensational. But they're a little bit easy. But then again, the Players Championship, since the new inception, the PBA has always been a little bit easy. The lanes have always been a little bit softer. You're introducing the guys to the new season. You want everybody to start the season on the right foot. You want the guys to be willing to go out there and compete every week because they've earned the opportunity to be there every single week.
Right.
I'm enjoying, as much as I hate when scores are astronomically high, I'm enjoying so far what's happening between the bowling ball transition, the display of different players on the lanes. I kind of like what's going on so far. Ocho, Rob, you guys go for a minute.
I feel like you would hate it if it was a house shot, but you like it that it's a pro shot, so it makes sense. And there has to be transition. There has to be adjustments. They're figuring it out pretty clearly. So I mean, you still got to hit the pocket, and they still got to go down. I mean, we get it. These guys are with their high rev rates and all that. We're more likely to get a strike than not, but eventually, I mean, the shot was put down for a reason. So if they said house pattern, I'd be like, that's absurd. So I can't really chime in much more than that.
It's the 38-foot Wayne Webb pattern. What does that mean to you, Johnny? When they name these patterns after, legends of the sport, is there any particular reason? Is it something that they bowled on, in their heyday, or what's? I don't know what's behind naming these patterns.
Sure, I'll give you at least to the best of my insider knowledge that I have, because my dad's one of those name patterns. First off, middle of the road when you come to length in the bowling world is 37 to 40 feet. If you put out a bowling pattern that's somewhere between those numbers in length, pretty much everybody that bowls has an opportunity to get to the pocket. Contrary to that, in the earlier years when the PBA would put out, say, the shark pattern, and it was 47 feet and OB outside of, say, the second arrow,
right,
you have to be a little bit more reliant on speed control and rev rate. When they put out cheetah at 35 feet, the guys who had no hand, the guys who were really, really good at going up the lane, typically kicked ass. So, like for
the rev guys would gutter a lot because they're throwing it out so far to the wall,
or they wouldn't be able to get in the
angle, comfortably. It'd be too steep coming back, or
right. There's always been a variable in most patterns that can dictate who's going to be at the top throughout the course of the tournament, right? Does that make sense?
Rob, for sure.
Rob, you're a lower rev lefty that likes to play closer to the track or the gutter. So you would fare better on a tournament. If you and I, Rob, being left-handers, if we only had resin bowling balls in our bags and we were on 35 feet, you would beat me. I think you would beat me. If I had a plastic
or you'd have
ball,
to put your thumb in the ball or something like that. You'd have to, I get it.
But if we bowled on 45 feet, I could beat you with my eyes closed. The same way you could probably beat me with your eyes closed on a short if I don't have the right tools.
Hang on real quick, though. Not a knock on you, Rob. I'm trying to think of it in like a better term, of bowling term. Could he beat you every game in an 8-game block, or would it be 5-3 you? You know what I'm saying? Like, because
at this point, because I know Rob's not bowling, I'd beat him 5-3. I think he would agree with that.
But of course, so I get what you're saying. Like, because just for the chat and the audience, Rob isn't beating Johnny because it's a cheetah pattern. He can beat him in a game. He can beat him in 3 games. Just in an extended play when Johnny can tinker, figure things out. Then of course, that's I just want to throw that in because it's like beating Tiger Woods in one golf hole. He could hit one off the hosel and hit 3 off the tee, and maybe I'll par it, and he's got double bogey. I beat Tiger Woods. No, I didn't. I beat him in one golf hole.
And you'll lose by 35 strokes.
And I feel like that's kind of how one bowling game would be in comparison when you do that. So that's why I only wanted to mention that part. So it wasn't a knock, Rob. You know that.
I know. I mean, bowling is funny because literally anybody can beat anybody on any certain game. Doesn't matter what skill level. Well, maybe it does. Skill level might have a little bit. The finals
are that one-on-one, and it's only those 12 shots. That's the only thing. We say like, you got to have 48 games to get there, and then.
Yeah, but the finals is your one chance to shine, and your 30 minutes for the public.
And maybe that's better.
Which, you know what, guys, is very similar to the Olympics.
Right?
Yeah.
You think Michael Phelps just got in the pool right before the Olympics and decided he was
I'm going to start swimming? Yeah, that's true.
That's a lot of years and a lot of hours every single Simone Biles. Same thing in gymnastics.
Best example that we've had in the show, in the history of the show.
That's what makes the Olympics so great is you only get to see this much of, let's call it 10 years of preparation.
A late start on a 100-meter dash, and like you're in 5th place, even though you were designed to win everything.
A tenth of a second.
Yeah, that's right. For sure.
100%.
But bowling is such a wonderful sport that even the best in the world can throw 150 or 140 in a tournament. Like you look at the best basketball players in the world, how many of them can shoot free throws all day or shoot 3-pointers all day? Doesn't matter what court they're on, doesn't matter what stadium they're in. They're going to be pretty consistent.
And pro golfers aren't shooting 94. On
golf too. Golf has so many different variables. That's why we kind of talk about golf a lot on this show because there are a lot of similarities between.
It's the closest one to be honest, really.
Right. Because baseball doesn't matter where you are. Football, the weather may depend on it playing outside, but bowling and golf, honestly, there's just so many different variables. It doesn't matter how good you are. You're not going to be that consistent typically. Like Tiger was amazing. Like Tiger and Arnold and the greats, like you have to really appreciate what they do to be as good as
every single course.
To be as good as they were, like so, and especially Tiger, like in his day, was amazing. You could say the same for Walter Ray. You could say the same for Belmo. Like I don't think people appreciate enough how hard it is to do what they did. When there's so many other good players in both sports.
I've said that about Tiger, too. I remember one time I was watching him, and then I promised I'll stop. And this woman was like, I'm so tired of him. He just wins all the time. And I'm like, if you only understood how good Jim Furyk, who was the 2nd-ranked golfer in the world at this point, is, and yet he can't sniff him. He got 1 major, I think, or 2. I think he got 2 U.S. Opens. But, like, and he'd win some tournaments if Tiger wasn't in. But, like, these guys were beat before Tiger got to the tee at this, by he got so good. But same course, they got to hit the ball. Anything is still in play. And that's what was amazing about him. The course, dogleg left, dogleg right, didn't matter. The British Open, the U.S. Open. And that's what these patterns, I guess, are supposed to replicate, too, or different courses.
But, I mean, Tiger's short game and putting was just stupid, like ridiculous.
Where nobody has an advantage. Nobody has an advantage because it's not like I'm hitting the ball 500 yards. No, I'm putting it 30 feet just in the cup. But anyway, so I remember saying, like, if you don't really appreciate, because she didn't know, and it's not her fault, but and thank God I was alive for when I was, because, man, we witnessed the greatest era of golf, I feel like. Maybe not the greatest era because he dominated so much. Would have been fun to see more like with Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus. But shit, now I at least appreciate that too. Anyway, but like you were saying, Rob, it's understanding how good Simo is, Belmo is. Like these guys, because they make it look so easy, we almost lose the appreciation of like, man, well, look how easy it is for them. If it's easy for them, it ain't easy for us.
No, that's a great point. And let me ask you this, Johnny. Are we watching the greatest era of bowling right now? All things considered.
we are in our era. We're watching the same thing that the bowlers in the 60s and 70s and early 80s watched with Earl Anthony. We're watching the same greatness that we saw in the late 70s and early 80s with Mark Roth. We're watching the same greatness we watched with Pete Weber. We're watching the same greatness as Walter Ray winning Bowler of the Decade multiple times. Our generation has been privileged to watch a lot of greats.
We caught the best of the
sport.
end, and then the middle, and then we caught the best of the new.
The same exact way. Right. If you talk to my dad, who's almost 80, if you ask my dad about Duke Snider or Sandy Koufax or Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig or Joe DiMaggio or Mickey Mantle, there's going to be people that say, yeah, well, Mickey Mantle can't hit the ball as far as Aaron Judge and, and all this stuff. Like, everybody always wants to cross generations. There's no reason to.
Right.
Like, isn't it cool that every generation has a batch of bowlers that are just a little bit better? And then the guys that stand the test of time, that show through their longevity and their commitment to the game, that they could just kick anybody's ass all the time.
Right.
Larry Stella just mentioned Marshall Holman and Wayne Webb. Another two prime examples where they would have been even better or even more well-known. Wayne Webb, respectfully, if Wayne Webb didn't grow up around guys like Earl and Roth and Albee and Cook, he would have won 10 more titles. Yeah. If Wayne, I love you to death. If Wayne didn't love slot machines or moved to Vegas, I definitely understand that too. His career would have been longer. Marshall Holman. If Marshall Holman, respectfully, one of the greatest bowlers of all time, going to say it out loud, if Marshall didn't suck on television, he would have won more than 22 times on television.
Absolutely.
Marshall made 188 shows. He won 20. It's not a very, very good ratio. And these are two of the greatest bowlers the sport's ever seen. Walter A. Williams Jr. has made it public knowledge that his goal in bowling is to have more wins than seconds. His goal in bowling is to win more than he loses.
That's hard to do.
I mean, that's
shit.
So I hate crossing eras when it comes to the greatest. Am I personally watching the greatest thing since sliced bread in the bowling world and Jason Belmonte? 100%.
And there's always some innovative too.
100% behind Parker Bone every time he throws the ball? Yes. Do I want to throw it like either of them? No. I want to throw it like Jason Couch.
Right.
He has half the titles that Parker has and will probably have half the titles that Jason has. Or that Belmo has.
Larry said David Ozio too. Another guy, David Ozio
100%.
and Voss.
Do I want to look like David Ozio? Yes. But do I want to win as much as Mike Albee? Even more, yes.
Sure. Right.
This goes any way, any which way you want. Going back real quick, what I was trying to say about what Ryan Schaefer said earlier, which is what I 1,000% agree with.
Yeah.
And that's how you know that Jean P is here in full force, mentally, capacity. Let's go.
Love it.
Is this. I agree that there should be a little bit more of an emphasis on shot making in the majors. And with the introduction of the new hardness urethane, which is not going to eliminate oil in the front of the lane, it's not going to make down lane as tight. It's going to allow big balls to be in play around the track area. It's going to allow for different types of games to work. I mean, it's kind of cool. I'm going to give you a prime example. I personally think Ryan Simonelli is one of the best lefties the game's ever seen. Do I think he's a little nuts? Yes, sure I do. I'm allowed to say that. He's one of my closest friends. I know nothing about Graham Fa, but I know that they're both extremely, extremely talented bowlers representing two different countries. But I know that Graham beat Ryan by like 25 pins a game today. I'm not 100% sure why. I'm not 100% sure why Brandon Runk beat Michael Martell by 25 pins a game today.
Right.
I'm also not 1,000% sure how Cortez Schenk bowled back-to-back 300s to open the PTQ and the first qualifying round. But guys like, I don't know, Tom Smallwood and Ronnie Russell are bowling 160. I thought that was kind of intriguing.
Yeah, same here.
Man, I'm going off it right now, but obviously y'all can tell I'm really into like the bowling season, and I'm really excited it's back. But
me too.
The one thing to take away before we feed into the next thing here, Rob, is this. the elimination of the purple hammer has not deterred any professional bowler from throwing urethane. 75% of the balls I saw go down the lane today were the 78U IQ and the 78U black hammer. Like I said, I saw Darren Tang throwing resin. I saw Sean Rash kicking ass throwing a Tour Dynamics. I saw Tim Foy bail his ass out after a 160 throwing a mindset. I saw Anthony Lavery Spar go to a mindset. Like I see the opportunity for resin balls to be there without having to jump completely into a different zone. So I'm not a hater of the new rule for the tour conditions. I am a hater that the condition's a little too soft. That said, Rob, I swear to God, I'm sorry. The last part about this is they are at North Rock Lanes in Wichita, Kansas, which for those of you who don't know is one of the highest scoring, best carrying centers in the United States. It's also where Mike Albee defeated David Ozio 300-279. Rhino Ari versus a Power Torque, 1993, Wichita, Kansas. Tied for the highest scoring match of all time with Bob Learn and my dad at the Flagship Open in 96. Like I said, I had a lot of shit to talk about today, with all due respect.
I know you do. Somebody mentioned in chat earlier that the topography is mostly based on friction. So if you're, I guess, a high rev guy, you won't have any problem getting through the heads and creating that down lane motion. Is that inaccurate?
Yeah, it's no secret that in the sport of bowling that if you have power and accuracy, you have an edge over the field. Doesn't matter if you're one-handed or two-handed. You're going to strike more. And as long as you're not a horrible spare shooter, if you strike more, you usually have at least a little bit of an edge on the competition. So,
let's talk about the Elite League. I have not followed the Elite League except for last year when the playoffs were like super crazy. Is this the first year that they've actually been having team matches on a weekly stop?
Yes. It's also the reason that deterred my dad from, allowed my dad the relaxation in passing the torch to Parker as the coach and that was my dad's biggest concern, which I kind of understood, is like with the exception of a few players, say like a Tom Hess or a Parker that will bop into both tours. If you make a league team this year, you're committed to going to all of those stops to compete in just those. So I actually asked Parker on a Monday night at our league at Howell Lanes, I'm like, Parker, between your kids on Team USA, you bowling the full swing on the senior tour, and now managing the Waco Wonders, like when do you go home and sleep in your own bed? And he kind of chuckled at that, which was the main reason my dad's like, I'm fucking 76. I don't want to go to Indiana and play 3 games here and do this or wherever it may be. I hope that it's one of the quietest, most silenced things that we have going in the PBA. The league is accepted worldwide. People love it. And I hope that they keep building on it, because imagine if we find 3 or 4 more places like, say, Portland, Maine. I mean, it'd be awesome. Right. But it's definitely going to change things. It's definitely going to put a little bit more emphasis on shot making weekly. Shit, I bowled horrible this week, but maybe I have a chance to do something for my team. And at the end of the day, it's an extra paycheck for the guys and the coaches that have teams. So
true. And I like it because
I can't hold my bladder anymore. I'm going to give this to Oach for like 5 minutes. It's just number 1, so it's like 7 minutes. I'll be right back.
But I do like it that it's an actual league now, not just a week worth of games. Whatever. Like it's literally going to be a weekly, a real league. I don't know why they call it the league to begin with. If it's only like a few days or a week of bowling, Ocho. I don't know if Nicole. Happy birthday, Nicole! Welcome to the show. You know what I mean? Oh, it's like it really feels like an actual league.
I mean, which also would mean again, you don't have just one game you can bowl. There's got to be consistency, and that's why the cream should always rise to the top. And yes, Troy, we're riding the Mason Rudolph consistency, obviously. And hopefully we get rid of Mike Tomlin because he's a fraud. I don't care. I said it, and everybody knows it. And that's besides the point, Troy. And I apologize if you're a Tomlin fan, but the guy loses more games against lousy teams than anybody. Back to bowling. The consistency, yes. If the cream doesn't – that's what I was talking about before. Like when Johnny said, Rob would whoop me on a short pattern, on a cheetah pattern, because he can't face the angle. You would. Again, and it might be 3 straight games. But yet, if it's out of 8, then that's a thing. That's where they don't the wins and losses shouldn't carry as much weight like the total pinfall should, which is why it's scored like that. So, but yeah, no, the fact that it's actually a league, it lets it play out at least to see if people can transition properly. And anyways, a little stuffy tonight too.
I like the fact that it's. Yeah, no, I understand. Speaking of which, did you get any snow last week?
No, it was supposed to be. It was just rain, a whole lot of rain.
Weird, right?
A whole lot of wind. I had the tarps down. I had my survival packs ready because Ocho is a survivalist, as you know.
That's right.
With extra outlets and charge compressors and everything, we're ready to go. And
but watching the Baltimore game last week, it was pouring balls there, and I'm like, man, can you imagine if that was snow?
And Rudolph went 18 of 20. Troy.
He did.
18 of 20 in that torrential downpour and hit Deontay Johnson in that freaking window. Anyways, I was okay with.
But then you go to New England,
signing, but then as soon as I saw him play, I said, "Boy, that was a bad signing."
But then you go to Gillette and Foxborough, and it was snow.
No, that was our local game too with the Jets. So, but anyways, no, we didn't get anything. We just like heavy wins. And but wins with Ocho, they literally avoid me. It's almost like vortex style. They go right around me because I just have to do one of these, and they're like, "True. My bad. I'm gonna go take down some other house."
Speaking of which, they had a tornado in Panama City Beach, Florida, which obviously in the South, especially in Florida, you typically get hurricanes. Very unlikely that you get a tornado in that kind of climate with the way the air pressure is and all that. They just got hit by a hurricane like 2 or 3 years ago. So there's a lot of devastation.
Damn.
That's a big tourist place down there in the Gulf Shore. But it's just weird. The weather's been very, very weird. It's going to snow here in Tennessee on Monday. They're looking for 6 inches, which is going to shut down the entire goddamn state. So
yeah. Plus, now your wife's going to know what 6 inches really is.
I meant to do that. Sorry, wrong button. Getting back to the league, I like the fact that it is in more than one house, so we don't have to. It's not just Portland, Maine. So it'll be good to see. Like you said, the cream will rise to the top, but we might have some interesting results here as the league goes on. I'm sure Johnny will have something to say about that.
No, I always wonder if someone even knows more enough about even if it's like the bowling alleys that they go to, and they're going to well, those are lefty houses, or you know what I mean? Because there's always going to be somebody who thinks they have the insider knowledge, and you're like, man, can you just let these guys do their thing? Like, come on. The stigma's bad enough, but I feel like that's the one thing that has to be broken. That's all.
Agreed. Getting back to football, because goddamn,
getting back to football on a bowling.
I wish we did a football show as well as a bowling show because I love both sports. Josh Allen throws a pick every game.
He can throw 10 picks. He's still going to win the game. They're still going to win.
It's crazy, right? I think it's 11 games in a row that he's thrown a pick. At least one pick.
Look, it's not going to be a blowout, I don't think, because the Steelers are going to be able to run the ball. It's bad weather. It's going to be, I think 20 to 30 degrees, but the wind is going to kick up. So that's going to keep the game on the ground. Steelers will have a shot. Maybe the game will be close, and then Josh Allen's going to freaking be all world. Josh Allen can throw the ball through the wind. He can throw the ball underwater if he wants to. That's how good the guy is.
And you can't tackle him. You literally cannot
Big
tackle
Ben, 3.3.
He is, but way more.
8.8.
Right. Johnny, talking about the league, we like the fact that it's actually it's an actual league now since it's going to be weekly. I never understood why they call it a league if it was only going to be a few days or a week of bowling. And now we get to see it in multiple houses. So it's going to be interesting to see who rises to the top and who does well. Like Ocho was saying, maybe next week will be a lefty house or the following will be a righty house.
Hey,
it's
look,
going to be
man,
fun to watch.
The cool thing about that to me is bowling in general, no matter what anybody says week to week about the left or the right or this and that, bowling as a whole has distributed titles where they are deserved. For instance, the winningest bowler of all time, Walter Ray, is right-handed. The greatest bowler in the world right now is two-handed. Second greatest bowler in the world is two-handed. The guy who's right on their coattails that bowled 300 earlier today, EJ, is a high rev righty. We also have Parker Bone at 60, still kicking ass. We have Jacob Buttroff, the most unconventional left-hander there is. We've got a two-hander in Jesper. We've got a two-hander in Packy. Bowling, as we know it today, legitimately allows any player from any walk of life to do whatever the hell they want and be successful. Same thing with the women. Doesn't matter if you're Jordan Richard, falling back the fourth arrow. Doesn't matter if you're Verity Crawley, which is basically, to me, David Ozio on the women's side. Doesn't matter if you're Shannon Pluhowski, which is Earl Anthony. Doesn't matter if you're Liz Johnson, who's Norm Duke. Every single bowler on tour has the ability to be successful right now in their own realm. And I think that's very, very sexy. I think it's very cool. I think it's awesome. So I love the idea that we are engaging everybody and allowing them to do what they want to do when they do it. So the idea of the league crossing the country is you're appealing to every single bowler. You're appealing to two-handers, traditionalists, one-handers, thumb in, thumb out, righty, lefty, male, female. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are, and where you are. There's going to be a place in the country that they visit in the league that people are going to root for certain kinds of players. It's just the nature of the beast. That's very, very cool to me. I think it's awesome. I mean, don't you? Wouldn't you, as a bowling fan, want to know that you get to watch 4 teams, 24 of your favorite bowlers bowl in a head-to-head match in your hometown city throughout the course of the season? It's fantastic. I really take away a hell of a lot more pros than I traditionally do with cons when it comes to what the PBA is trying to instill this year. I think it's awesome. Sure, just like anything else, no matter what you do or where you go, there's always going to be, well, there's this, there's that. The scores are too high. They're too much lopsided. When it's all said and done, it balances out. And as the Waco Wonders proved this last year, anybody can beat anybody in this sport, especially when it comes to match play. I mean, go back to a couple of the PTQ winners. Go back to Rhino Page being one of the highest point getters when he wasn't even exempt, or Sean Rash establishing his Hall of Fame career by winning out of the PTQ. Like, this is the time where people that are still aspiring to be the giants in the sport, this is the time they can do it, because the game that we're in right now allows everybody to play to their strengths. You may have to alter it a little bit here and there, but you're still going to come out on top in the end if you dedicate just a little bit more time than the guy next to you.
Are you worried about the bowlers that are both in the tournaments and the league getting burnt out from bowling too much?
I personally don't, because when I'm involved in something, I'm involved wholeheartedly and fully. So, like, if you were to say to me, hey, John, the next time you go to the gym, you can't go there unless you bench 285 instead of 265. I'm still going to go and try and bench 285. It's still in my nature to try and eclipse what I've previously done, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm Cortez Shank, for a perfect example, since we're on this kick, if I'm Cortez, like, if God isn't telling you to go kick ass the entire year because you bowled 2 300s the first week of the season, then I don't know what other sign you need. On the flip side of that, I look at guys like Ryan Simonelli and Michael Martell, who are not only sensational bowlers, but also established players. They're having a bad week. They'll figure it out. Ryan will drill a ball that hooks a little bit sooner, or Mike will learn how to kick his hand out of it a little bit more. And we're going to see the same guys in there at some point. I really, really like the direction this season is taking, especially for the simple fact that we have no idea who's going to be on top at the end. This is no longer a Belmo, EJ, and Anthony wash.
That's where we were going before, Rob. The cream will rise to the top, but like there has to be that playing field where nobody can say, well, it's only going to be because of them. It's only going to be because of them. So hopefully, go ahead. That was just a thing when you were in the rescue.
Why would nobody tell me something's on my face?
What's on your face?
Yeah, I got it right.
You're still beautiful. You're still beautiful. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it probably made you better.
Absolutely.
I agree. Not even fair.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to jump into the hammer stuff because that's a big deal too. Of the 3 new releases that are creating a lot of buzz from a lot of people, And Hammer's actually doing a great job of advertising this stuff as well. I got to give them credit. They're actually all over Twitter and social media, which is something bowling doesn't do enough. But I do want to ask you, let me put this up on the screen. This is what got put in one of the Facebook groups ahead of the official announcement from Hammer. It was leaked that the 3.0 was coming out. I'm not going to say, I'm almost positive you don't know who would do that, but what would give somebody, why would they do that? Why would somebody want to leak that announcement out ahead of time?
Because some people in this world are just fucked up, Rob. I got nothing else to say. I mean, you're welcomed into a community to represent the brand. Like they went out of their way to offer you something that they didn't offer. Let's just say 100,000 other people. You know, just to throw out a number. Maybe it's only 10,000 people. Who gives a shit? The same way, who gives a shit if you're bowling on TV for a $10,000 bonus or a $100,000 bonus? You're still trying to strike on the 12th shot, right? I think that sometimes people are just really, really looking for recognition and really want to be noticed, so they go out of their way to do something that they know will get it for them. I think it was ugly and shitty, but it's been handled appropriately. That we can't do anything else about that. But I will say, in regards to that bowling ball, is HK22 one of the most deadly cover stocks the bowling industry has ever seen. Comprised as a combination with the gas mask core of the Widow line, which has been dominant since, let's call it 2004 or 5, since Doug Kent kicked ass with it at the Masters and had his incredible year of winning 2 majors. It's going to be another great ball, just like every ball that comes out nowadays. No matter what the manufacturer, who makes it, where it's made, every bowling ball that comes out nowadays suits somebody to some extent. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Brandon Bone is the prime candidate to throw the Black Widow 3.0. Maybe his violent collision from DV8 is a little bit too angular. Well, guess what? Brandon Bone can throw the ball 22 miles an hour and just needs a ball to make its move 2 feet sooner.
Right.
We have an app for that. We have this for that. There are so many tools available to the greatest players in the world right now that, like we said from the start of the show, we have no idea who's going to kick ass this year. Now, typically what happens in a PBA league season is through the first few weeks, we start noticing a trend in the way lanes break down. We start understanding who's going to be there at the top every single week, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. That is still yet to be seen. We have no idea if, let's say, I'm going to pull a name out of that, Frank Snodgrass, because earlier today when I watched Frankie bowl 230, 270 to open up, but Frankie was using the new black urethane, playing, typically his A game where he was during the Elias Cup, somewhere between 5 and 10, and playing urethane, playing the first half of the lane.
Speaking of which, he's eighth right now after 9
Will
games.
he be able to do that in 3 or 4 different venues with 3 or 4 different oil patterns? I don't know. The same way we don't know if BJ Moore, a traditionalist with a lot of hand and like one of the most beautiful games we've ever seen, I don't know if he's going to out-average the field by 15 pins a game and average 260 every week. But what we do have is the idea that any kind of game can be the winner this year. Kind of like football. I heard you guys talking about football when I was in the bathroom. I don't know if the Dolphins or the Bills or the Ravens or the Niners or the Packers, for fuck's sake, or the Buccaneers, the Steelers. I have no idea who's going to win the Super Bowl. I hope the Cowboys don't. I really like, that's the only thing I hope, but I have no idea who's going to win. And it's kind of like that in bowling this year. The playing field has been leveled enough, but is similar enough that the Titans are still going to be there, but there's going to be a lot of people right outside the usual names that you're used to hearing that are going to kick some ass.
They're knocking on the door, basically like, all right, one false move, and then we're taking over some of these spots here.
Heck yeah.
It's fucked up that Tampa Bay has a home game for winning the division, but have a horrible one.
I think Philly laid over that game to just play Tampa in the freaking first round too, but whatever.
Yeah, Philly playing as horrible as they are, they're pretty much getting a bye when they play Tampa. But it's just funny that they won the division at what?
9-8, I think they went.
What's funny and also not funny to me is that the Jaguars missed the playoffs.
Great for me.
And I kind of really feel bad for Simonelli here because I know he's a diehard Jags fan.
Sorry.
And I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan, and I certainly love the uniforms.
If he wasn't hurt, they would have destroyed them.
When he slammed that ground after he hurt himself, man, we knew in that moment. So, again, like I guess, Rob, I know we've reached the hour mark somehow.
No, I don't. We're good. If you're good, I'm good.
I am happy with the PBA right now. I think the scores are too high for a major. Going back to Schaefer and Wiseman's convo on social media, I think they're a little bit too easy, but they're also a little bit confusing for a lot of bowlers.
Right.
And it's going to be a matter of who figures it out the fastest this year. And it's kind of cool to watch.
Getting back to the hammer releases, what do you know about this ball?
So anything that has a low flare stamp on it from the EBI brands, which is now Brunswick, is always good for me. Starting with Bill O'Neill winning, I believe it was 2013 when he was throwing the Arson low flare in the specialized lanes that they put up in South Point prior to the arena being built. Any symmetrical solid that says low flare will typically not change direction as aggressively, but still have the length of, say, a lower end ball. This benefits certain kinds of bowlers. It benefits softer ball speeds. It benefits seniors. It benefits ladies. It benefits any bowler who doesn't want to see that boomerang jackknife type reaction down lane, but also allows a bowler to still play to their strengths and not worry about a ball puking too early, say if it has too much of a shell. Mm-hmm. That's the most exciting ball, at least to me, because remember, I'm back home now, so I spend a lot of time with Dad. And Dad, at the ripe old age of 76 and having a hard time staying under it and having a hard time with ball speed, I look for this ball to be a monster for seniors, women, and high rev players.
Yeah.
Real quick, because this is something I was thinking about as far as amateurs go. No, your dad is not an amateur, but what is this? Amateur hour. No, I need you here.
I need more soda. Hang on.
Right on. Okay, so
just grabbing soda.
How do you drill a ball properly then? Can you drill it for the bad effects of somebody being on top of the ball or risk collapsing and not I was thinking about it just at league at when some of the guys that kind of spike the ball or something like that, how do you drill the ball for them? Because how do you know what it's going to do? Or is it just guesswork? Now, again, for pros, clearly the way they throw it, the way the rev is, the way the ball turns, the way it faces, they can drill it accordingly. So there's got to be – I feel like it's got to be harder for the pro shop guy when somebody who used to throw the ball spectacularly now simply can't. Like getting hybrid clubs, like getting hybrid irons, I guess, almost. I'm trying to think. So is there a way to have to drill it specifically for them too? Sure. Or do they have it's just all right, well, I want the weight block to turn at this point, and then this is how we do it kind of thing? Because I know nothing about this. It's zero.
So this is a great question, especially for our ball drillers in the chat. I'll give you my 10 cents, and then anybody that drills bowling balls could probably give me theirs as well to see if we're on the same page or if we see it slightly differently. I'll start with me. I'm the best person to use here. Since going to no thumb, I have a very high rev rate and softer ball speed. So typically, I'm forced to move way in on the pattern, whether it dictates it or not. If the pattern says play the second or third arrow, I'm still playing the third or fourth arrow. It's annoying. It's the reason why I struggle half the time that I bowl in half the events, or I'm forced to use, say, urethane or plastic. Similar to, say, a Jesper, who's just accepted the fact that if he throws urethane, he's better than when he throws resin. And that's been made pretty obvious through the way that he approaches the game. But what I'll do is I will try and mellow out bowling balls through the drilling based off of my positive axis point and my vertical axis line. So, for instance, let's say a 1-inch pin. And what I mean by a 1-inch pin, for those of you who don't drill bowling balls or don't
I know what a 1-inch pin is, by the way.
Your axis point.
Oh, never mind. I'm bowling.
Your axis point. In other words, the part of the bowling ball that stares at you when you let it go that you can't see in the first few revs. If you move the pin or the dot on the bowling ball, the big dot, close to your axis point, you're stabilizing the weight block. What you're doing is you're forcing the ball to stand up quicker and remove the angularity down lane.
So it'll more like roll out, I guess, towards the end, or just go a little straighter, obviously, more end over end.
Exactly. It'll be more rolly, and it'll make its change in direction.
That doesn't mean a bad throw. It just means it's very forward roll type, and as opposed to sweepy. And
Chris Barnes has made a career out of throwing bowling balls that stand
first guy I thought of.
Don't hook down lane. It's not rocket science. So if you can still play to your strength while using a piece of equipment that disallows the craziness of the angularity on, say, sensitive patterns, or you eliminate the sensitivity from that bowling ball, you can control a lane front to back, which is the main goal on the PBA Tour. Nobody on the PBA Tour plays the lane east to west anymore or west to east. They play it north to south or south to north, whichever way you want to go. They're using equipment that slows down lane. Sean Rash. I keep bringing up Sean because I watched him intently today. Is that even the right word? I watched him.
Did great.
Yes.
I watched him throw a Tour Dynamics from Rotogrip, which I know is a ball that hugs the front part of the lane. But Sean was able to use that ball in a part of the lane that you saw the guys throwing the new, harder urethane bowling balls. Sean was able to play to his strength and stay up the back in straight Wichita style and somehow make it to 8th place in a field where, it looked like if you didn't have a urethane ball in your arsenal, you had no chance, right? Sean figured out a way to do it, and which is what we talked about a couple shows ago when we had Ryan on here, and Ryan was excited about the higher hardness in the urethane. It brings everybody from north-south and brings them kind of closer to the equator. It allows for the true talent of the bowler to stand out just a little bit more than the motion of the
which is what
ball.
We're asking for, too. That was the premise of this show.
And it also eliminates the dictation of the lane beds and the change in the oil pattern from the balls that are soaking up all of the head oil.
Right.
I've said it 3 times today. I'll say it one more time. It allows every bowler to play to their strengths. So from here, the guys that are the most confident, the guys who are making the best shots
and the best talent,
are going to be the guys that you see at the forefront throughout the course of the year. You may see 1 or 2 here and there that, like, out of nowhere, it's like, holy shit, this was their year. You may see that. I promise you may see it. But I promise you, for the most part this year, you're going to see the legends of the last few years, the studs of the last few years, and you're going to see a couple, like, no surprise guys doing some work here as well.
You know how I always mentioned the plastic ball tournament, which I don't even think they have anymore, and like that was where your dad, like, just you guys were you I think you finished like 1 position ahead or behind your dad the one year, like, and it was like 8th and 9th, something, I don't want to say stupid, something like, because it was, here's your ball, the variables are there, you got to create it this way, and make the ball do the work. And it's the Indian and not the arrow. It's not standing in your same spot saying I'm going to drill something that's going to hook a little way. And I feel like that what he's saying is that's a little more what should happen in this league, in this league this year. Not to that extreme, but like it'll let the talent rise to the top, not the manufacturer or the. It's terrible to say because
no, and you're right, but again, here's the flip side. When the guys go to the home run derby in baseball, they know that every single pitch is going to be 75 miles an hour up the gut.
It's like a house shot.
So all they have to do is in their swing zone.
Time it.
Right? That's all they have to do. So for a lot of years on tour, especially since the Purple Hammer and the Pitch Black came out, guys were allowed to get into that swing zone.
Mm-hmm.
This year, everybody has to think about the swing zone just a little bit differently.
Their own, right.
Just a little bit. So maybe this year, the guy that can only hit the low outside curve to left field 400 feet, all of a sudden you take that away. Now he's got to learn how to hit it to center.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you take the guy who's really, really good at lacing him down the line, and now he's got to learn how to hit him opposite field. But it's enough for the elite or the guys
to figure it out.
Which, with all due respect, everybody out there
They're all
is
elite. They're all elite.
Everybody out there is elite. Everybody had to earn their spot in the PTQ. Everybody had to earn points to even be competing in the Players Championship this week. Everybody out there doesn't want to be doing anything else than what they're doing right now, and that's fucking bowl for a living, which for people like me, washed up has-beens, that's all I ever wanted to. I'm just a little bit behind the curve. But now I want to see all of these people out there do work with what's being presented to them, because for once, I'm actually saying the PBA is trying to engage the general public and make this a goddamn sport for once. Again, it's very, very cool to me. I'm very happy with the PBA right now.
What I'm not happy with is Chad Murphy and the USBC.
Good.
Did you have a chance to read his State of the Union address that came out?
I feel like asking me to read anything that Joe Biden writes.
Or Warren.
Why the fuck would I go out of my way to read what Chad has to say?
Would you like me to breeze through a little bit of what he said, or do you just want to?
It may as well. I mean,
okay.
I'll scoot on for this. Ocho's probably noticeably a little bit like deterred from this conversation. I'm okay with it.
He said, let's start with the membership, where we continue to see a growth trend. 2020 to 2021, 850,000 members. Obviously, COVID probably had a lot to do with that. 2021 to 2022, 1,053,000. And 22 and 23 was 1,093,000. So there is an uptick in membership. I mean, can you really claim that big of an uptick when nobody was allowed to fucking do anything during COVID? That's like saying Joe Biden created 600,000 fucking new jobs. No, they just went back to fucking work.
Without getting too political, I'll get off the politics now.
I mean, it's the same comparison.
But since I have no problem talking about my feelings about Chad Murphy,
right?
Tell him he's still 7 million behind. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Fucking worthless piece of shit. Sorry, it's the first time I cursed tonight. Hide your kids, hide your wife, because it's going to get shitty up in here. No, like I said, I got nothing else to say about him or anything he has to say, because people that go out of their way to let the general public know that they only give a shit about themselves, I don't have time for them, man.
No, that's fair.
My dad's dedicated his entire life to caring about other people. So when you give me the opposite end of the spectrum with somebody who only gives a shit about lining their own pockets, granted, I ain't no fucking saint. I'm like not a great person, but I'm also a great person at the same time. At least to have the presence of mind of knowing when I fuck up.
Well, you're self-aware. He has no.
I'm self-aware enough,
yeah,
but I'm certainly self-aware enough to know that I'll never say anything nice about Chad Murphy.
No,
and
I mean,
what's he going to do? Kick me out of USBC? He already tried last year at Nationals when I showed up in a non-bowling shirt that happened to be a jersey. Go fuck yourself, Chad.
I remember that.
Here comes Johnny P.
Yeah. I love it. Gets fired up here on the Fired Up Sports Network. He just touts his numbers. You know, U.S. Open championships, the teams went from 7,000 to 9,000. The women went from 2,500 to 4,100. Membership dues in these two tournaments make up 90% of their revenue stream, blah, 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 blah. Like, who gives a fuck?
And Rob, I hope they do. I hope that bowling.
I hope they do too, but I mean,
I hope
what does that have to do with him?
20 million members by 2030. And I hope to God that Chad is the guy sitting there saying, yeah, I did all of this just so I could fucking pow, like fucking Steve Harvey to the guy that said cupine to what follows pork. I just want to fucking slap him on the head. You think you had something to do with this, you rat bastard? Get the fuck out of here.
That's to say, like, he's done. What has he actually done to grow the numbers in the last couple of years? Nothing, dude. Nothing at all.
Figured out a way to grow the pockets. I think I might be dancing with disaster here, and I certainly don't want to give the company that's given my family food for the last 50 years any problems. So I apologize for shitting once again on the leader of the governing body of
we all do it. Riggs did
it. I have to throw it in there at least for 10 seconds. Right. And this part of the show is brought to you by Skin Bracer, which smells great. It also cools and tones my skin. Confidence is very sexy, don't you think? Original and cooling blue by Menon. Thanks, Jack Palance.
Fucking great. That was fantastic. What do you think of the new sponsor of the PBA? Pilgrim's Food Company. I don't even know what the fuck they do, but I've never even heard of them. But
I respect.
what's up with Lumber Liquidators or whoever the fuck was
Just say
sponsoring last year?
I respect any sponsor that's throwing their change into the sport of bowling. So I love Pilgrims for the sake of the sport that we all love and like the reason we're all here. So hell yeah. Same way I love Knight Automotive on Kevin McCune's jersey. I know nothing about Knight Automotive, but I love that he's allowed to rock their logo. Like it's anybody that gives a shit about our sport is okay in my book. So
no, it's welcome to have somebody. No, it's welcome to have somebody new that we haven't heard of before. I was just busting their balls. They do have like 55,000 plays across the country, so that's awesome. That is a cool deal. And they have a deal with the CBS Sports Network. They're going to be broadcasting a fuck ton of bowling this year.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
So it's good to see the tour finals that will be on CBS Sports Network. I think there's a few other tournaments will be there as well. But
bring that back up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, just realized this because I've been gone in Vegas for 12 years. I'm almost positive Steel City Bowl is the home of Lee Sant's Bowler X Bowling Center, which is one of my favorite bowling centers to visit. Absolutely. It's in Bethlehem, PA, close to, well, when I was really excessive into gambling, the local favorite casino. But I think it's awesome. I mean, it's being hosted by a true family that loves bowling. A true bowling area. That's fantastic.
Mike Wise says Pilgrim's frozen chicken nuggets are money. I'll have to check that out because you guys know.
He knows.
I love chicken and
you mean
fried
you
chicken
love that chicken from Pilgrims.
Love that chicken from Pilgrims. Yes. What else do I have here? Oh, we gotta get the imbecile of the week.
Oh shit, we have those.
Well, I'm gonna have you pick it again. So I have a couple options, but let's roll into it.
I like it.
It's time for everybody's
favorite
segment.
If you guys don't know how to use a seatbelt, just ring your call button and Tommy will come back there and hit you on the head with a tack hammer.
You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
Here's the imbecile of the week.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
All right, Mr. Petraglia, here is your imbecile of the week.
Take it off. I hate that you always bring up this picture, you asshole. There's nothing wrong with Kimberly. Next.
For those of you listening on audio, I just threw up a picture of Kimberly Presser, who's always the imbecile of the week. But
no, she's not.
Don't forget this one, too. The greatest fucking fair ever. The Union County, Illinois Fair.
Actually, leave that there for a second.
All right.
That should be one of the new team logos.
It should be. All right. This was on the Hammer Bowling Facebook group. Okay. Does anyone actually know the true meaning of overseas release? We start seeing these balls offered on ball websites. At first, I thought the ball was released in Korea or Japan overseas, in quotes, but now I'm finding out overseas just means made in Mexico. I got 2 overseas balls last month, the Gold Pearl Widow and the Red Pearl Ocean Vibe. Received both, and both said made in Mexico. I talked to an experienced ball driller and pro shop owner who said overseas means only made in Mexico and just another way to move more bowling balls. Someone else said it was first released in Korea. I don't believe that, so if anyone can confirm it, it just means made in Mexico or true meaning. I would appreciate that for further knowledge. Thanks to all. That's not that's the pretext there. I'm not calling him the imbecile of the week. He actually has a legitimate question.
Yes.
You would actually know a lot about that as well. But so before we get into one of the assholes that commented on that thread, what does overseas mean? As we know, 99% of equipment that we get here in the States is made in Mexico. But do you know what the true meaning of overseas release is?
I know what it used to mean. Again, I've been out of the game at a professional level for a very long time, but typically what overseas bowling balls meant was, before I even tell you, I'll just give you examples. Mika Koivuniemi and Osku Palermo and guys like that have a distinct game. Osku throws the ball very hard. Mika lofts the ball very, very much. Typically, overseas, they're not used to as new lane beds as we have out here. They're usually a little bit more beat up, a little less oil, the heads hook a little bit more. So typically, bowling balls that are introduced for overseas play hook less overall. Whether it's changing direction down lane, whether it's shell in the front part of the lane, doesn't matter. Typically, overseas balls hook less than the U.S. That's it. That's like, to my knowledge, that's it.
That's fair. Because I have seen them on Bowler's Mart, where they claim overseas release.
There's nothing wrong with them, Rob. I mean, dude, if my entire arsenal could be overseas, please give it to me. Give me a rubber LT, a couple plastic balls, a purple hammer, a black pearl hammer, and the rest overseas. That way I don't have to play the Fifth Arrowhead League every night. I mean...
Well, Johnny, you can just go to bowlersmart.com and you can pick up any...
I could.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, but
let's get to the comment and question.
All right, go ahead. Show me the comment.
There we go. This is from Mike Sador. Stan Friedman, guess reading is hard for you. Mexico and the United States are not separated by seas. There are certain balls that are specifically released in Japan and Korea. Example, Storm Superlock. This ball wasn't a release for the United States. Makes sense. While I appreciate I do appreciate, him answering the question, but did he have to be a douchebag about it?
Hi, Stan. Guess reading this is hard for you. Already hate Mike Sidor, so I'll start there, even though he's a Ginzo just like me, so I have actually no problem saying I fucking hate you already. Mexico and the United States are not separated by seas. Before I even go any further, the guy asked the difference between overseas balls and here, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is Mike decided to read what he felt like reading and decided to say that Brunswick bowling balls, or the brands of Brunswick, are manufactured in Mexico and are then transported to the United States.
Correct.
So Mike is already giving his 10 cents on something that has nothing to do with the question, which is the first fucking problem in not only our sport, but life in general. People think they're smart, read what they only want to read, and then decide to respond on what they feel is correct based off their own knowledge, because everybody out here thinks they're fucking Einstein instead of accepting the fact that they're not and trying to learn from the shit that they're listening to. Mike, overseas bowling balls, we're not talking about when Brunswick manufactures their products in Mexico. We're talking about the bowling balls that are distributed specifically to countries that aren't here. We're talking about Japan. We're talking about Malaysia. We're talking about the United Arab Emirates. We're talking about Bahrain. We're talking about Australia. We're talking about the bowling balls that don't exist here in the States unless you specifically order them from a manufacturer or a massive corporation like a Bowler's Mart. So you're already an asshole. It's the first thing I'm going to say. Now, going to there are certain balls specifically released in Japan and Korea. Example, the Storm Superlock. This ball wasn't made for the United States. Makes sense? Had you opened with that, had you started with that and said, hey, Stan, there's balls that are specifically released in Japan and Korea. For instance, the Superlock. It wasn't released in the U.S. Makes sense? Now, you are moderately answering the question that Mike had. But Mike's question was, what the fuck makes the balls different? What makes them different? He didn't say the fucking name. He said, what is the difference between international sold bowling balls and here? And the truth of the matter is to my knowledge, and I'm basing this off of facts, I'm going back to like when they made Tour Edition speed zones with different pins, or when Brunswick released the Comfort Zone, or when Storm releases Phase 10, even though we're only up to Phase 5 in the States. They're building balls designed to combat the lane conditions of the countries they're being distributed in, for the most part. So in Japan, every once in a while, a player will go in there and say, let's stay on the lock line. Dude, I love the snap lock. But they don't say it like this. Oh, I want the snap lock. They're doing that because they want the snap lock. So they're specifically asking the States to send them a snap lock because they want a ball that hooks more than the super lock, because the super lock doesn't hook as much out there. It's I'll give you, Rob, I like this one. I like the idea that it's the beginning of this for me. It's read the goddamn guy's question. What is he really looking for the answer for? He didn't go out of his way to write this because he wants to be made fun of or told that his reading is hard for you. Don't be such a fucking dick, Mike Sidor. The guy is asking a fucking dead serious question that I'm sure 50% of our listeners didn't know the answer to until I said it.
And it's not like it's the bowling science forum where there's a bunch of fucking knuckleheads in there, right? It's the fucking hammer group where you
it's
typically
a real
have
question. It's a
real
good question because who knows? Who knows? If you're not involved in the game, who knows? Like, I love baseball, but I don't know if a Marucci bat goes further than a Louisville bat. I don't know if a fucking Easton bat. I don't know if an Easton Reflex from 1997 has more ping than a fucking red line from TPX in 1998. I would have to ask somebody. So imagine me going up and saying, my kid is an all-star in high school, and he's really looking at this Louisville red line. He used to have a connection, but he wants this red line. It would be like this asshole saying, hey, John, guess reading is hard for you, but the Reflex is a composite bat and doesn't have a recessed gut to it. Thanks so much, Mike. Thanks for answering a question that I already fucking didn't know the answer to. And now you've given me more information I don't know about. It's ugly. It's shitty. I could talk about assholes like this all day. I'm sorry. I'm still going.
No, it's fair. Here's the other comment I want to put in there.
We got to hurry. I've been blabbering for an hour and a half now.
I know. I'm pretty sure we're going to go with this guy, but this has honorable mention here all over it. This is the same thread. James Griffith says, Flacco is only a temp because of his age. Maybe one more year? Motherfucker didn't know what post he was on, apparently.
I like James Griffith.
Okay, you know who he is?
I'm not going to shit on James Griffith because I grew up confusingly.
Okay.
My dad's two closest friends in the world outside of bowling are Jerome Bettis from the Pittsburgh Steelers and very close with Bill Cowher, but he was also the best man at Jim Mueller's wedding, who was the announcer for the Cleveland Browns. So my dad, I grew up as a Jet fan locally, but I also rooted for the Browns and the Steelers. And then when I married Andrea, my ex-wife, I went to college in Youngstown, Ohio. So I was an hour from Pittsburgh and an hour from Cleveland. And when I got there and said that I rooted for both teams, that was a big no-no there. It's like rooting for the Yankees and the Red Sox. You just don't do it. But I like that Joe Flacco is quarterbacking the Browns, and I'm the biggest Browns fan ever. So maybe one more year would be good enough by me, James. I'd love to see the Browns make it to the Super Bowl, let alone win it. I think it'd be awesome. So James has a pass. The first guy can kiss my ass.
Well, it's official then. The imbecile of the week is Mike Sidor. Congratulations. You win nothing. You're just an asshole. You're not as big of an asshole as Doc Sullivan, obviously, because he can go fuck himself.
Doc. Where's Troy?
Troy said it earlier in the chat. He said F Doc Sullivan, like right when we started. But congratulations, Mike Sidor. You are this week's imbecile of the week. Johnny, what are you looking forward to as we come up here to our first telecast this coming weekend?
I love bowling, Rob. Always have. I'm excited to watch the best in the world on TV again. Honestly, it always reincarnates a little spark in me and makes me want to dig a little bit harder, even for local tournaments. It makes me want to be a better bowler, and bowling is such a huge part of my life and always has been. I want to see some names of yesteryear kick some ass this year. I'd like to see a little bit more camaraderie. I want to see a little bit more, like a little this year. And I think that it's going to happen this year. I still stand behind the idea that the only thing that's going to change with the elimination of the soft urethane is the back ends won't tighten up as quick. And when they do, just know how to fix it the same way you did with the old urethane.
Do you think that the new Black Hammer will react the same as the purple? Is it the same type?
No, it can't. It's harder. It'll try and make the same change in direction, but it won't happen in the same spot that it did. You'll see a lot more flat 7s and flat 10s. You'll see a lot more 2-8-10, 3-7-9 combinations, but overall, you'll still be allowed to play the lanes pretty close to what you were doing. It's more so a speed and direction thing this year, more so.
Okay.
And
do you,
or like Chuck said, they'll just add a little bit more surface to make it roll as such, or drill, multiples rather than sticking by one for, say, 5-6 to 1.
I mean, can you manipulate that ball to give it the same type of angular,
Absolutely. It's the same 2-piece bowling ball, just with a loud cover stock hardness. But over time, it'll soften up a little bit, and you can hammer the shit out of a 7-8 hardness with, say, 500 grit or 360 grit, the same way you would have hammered a purple urethane with 1,000 or 500 grit.
I like it. What does this mean for the blue? It doesn't matter, right? Like, it depends on the condition. There's 50 fucking balls you can use in the house, but what does that mean for the blue? Was that just like a temporary bridge between the purple and the black, or what do you think about the blue now?
The blue will have its place as well. I'll tell you this right now: the blue is a monster on a house shot. Same way, it allows the length through the front. It changes enough direction down lane, and it's playable for anybody. Didn't see many blues being thrown so far this week in Wichita, and we may not see it all year. But there's nothing wrong with the ball. I mean, the rules are different on tour than they are on the regular on the regular circuit. Like, you can still use a purple hammer everywhere else, but you can't use a black hammer. You can't use a purple hammer on tour. So maybe they won't need the blue hammer. And if they do, my guess would be it would be the ball to go to when the black urethane hammer starts to labor down lane, because it'll hook 5 feet sooner, and the change of direction will be somewhat similar.
Chuck Ritchie says he was shocked to see that the news weren't actually being used that much.
You'll see them more as the season progresses, I think, but I was shocked too to not see them this week. I figured it would have been the ball up when the urethanes went away, at least for the Brunswick staff.
Well, we're excited for Hammer, and I know Troy is too. And congrats to Packy, who signed a deal with Hammer this week, getting away from DV8, which is still part of Brunswick. I mean, it's all the same pocket, but it is good to see him represent a different brand in the brands of Brunswick. So after his success last year, it's almost it was almost a given that he would, change teams like that. But real quick, we just want to let you know that you can be watching all of the Players Championship on bowl.tv this week.
Rob's account.
Well, one more question about that, actually, real quick. Wriggles had a question today about the coverage of the Elite League, how they had pretty much every game going on at the same time, and it's kind of hard to focus on. I guess he would rather have them split up, but what did you think of the coverage or the way they're handling the coverage of the league on Bowl TV?
I personally don't have a problem with the way they do anything on Bowl TV. They're going out of their way to broadcast
everything,
all of it to us. If it's too busy in quad screen, you still have the option to switch out of that, right?
Yes.
We're only talking about the main feed. So they're offering multiple options to different brains. I mean, I have no problem with it. Do I think it might be a little bit too busy for certain people? Sure. But those same people that think it's too busy could go and pick whichever stream their favorites are on and go watch it. Then you can always pop back to one channel and see what all the scores are. I think the quad box is a beautiful idea. Yeah. I don't see a problem.
And, actually relating to football, getting Sunday Ticket this year through YouTube TV now, you can watch multiple games at one time in a quad box or a triple box, or which you couldn't do with DirecTV, and I've had that for years and years and years. So
now, Rob, I will tell you this, since you brought up football. Watching the college football playoff on ESPN2, where they had the commentators in one box and the football game in the other, I'd rather slit my own throat than ever watch that again.
Agreed. Yes.
It was the most annoying.
Why would they want to see the commentators?
Worthless, disgusting thing I've ever seen.
It was horrible. Yeah.
Especially when they brought in Matthew McConaughey. I like him in A Time to Kill, I like him in Angels in the Outfield. I like him in movies.
He was in Angels in the Outfield?
Yeah, he was fucking Williams in the Outfield.
All right.
No, I had no idea. I know he was in Dazed and Confused.
He was in Dazed and
Confused.
Wooderson. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I mean, like, we can go on and on.
I don't know whose genius idea that was.
I don't need to listen to Matthew McConaughey commentating Texas at all. I don't need to see him walking up and down the sidelines with nobody by his side. That was annoying. It was ugly.
I do agree. I don't know whose genius idea that was, but that wasn't good.
Yeah.
Although I will applaud ESPN too for having Eli and Peyton on during the year for select games. It was actually more fun to listen to them break down the games and listen to fucking Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, which that speaks for itself. But Bowl.tv has all the action for this week and this year. They're the official TV home of all the qualifying rounds, match play. And Fox will have the top 5, which starts, is it Sunday? Yes, on Sunday.
I was just trying to look for it.
And they'll also be covering we got the PBA Junior National Championships this weekend as well. That'll be taped on Fox. The PBA's Player Championship Finals will be live on Fox at 4 p.m. on Monday, actually. That's weird, right? People are working during that time. Why the fuck would they? I don't agree with that. For all the good we're saying, that one to me doesn't make sense.
Look, it's been tough since we left primetime on ABC, and we've been trying to figure out a way to make it work. Not going to shit on it till there's something to shit on. There's only X amount of dollars in this sport.
True.
And you got to make do with what you got. And
it is a holiday, Nico.
Definitely not going to knock that
I
yet.
still have to work, Nico. So fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do have to work on Monday. I'm not one of those that gets MLK Day off, which my wife does, but I don't. So I got to go in. So I'm going to be fucking watching it at work. Spoiler alert. But no, it is weird. Maybe they don't want to get cut by fucking women's basketball. So I mean, that was a big deal last year, or NASCAR. So. In any event, we're leaving. Johnny's giving me the fucking go home cue. It's time to wrap it up here. Next week is episode 100. Finally, we got there. We're not there yet. Maybe I'll get sick and not fucking show up. But no, episode 100 will be coming up next week. Johnny, do you want to finally give us a tease or a hint, or just tell us who's going to be on there?
If I told you we're going to have the winner of this week's Players Championship on the show, would you believe me?
No, not at all.
All right, then I have no idea.
That's fair. That's a good tease because I wasn't expecting that. So if you can make that happen, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Troy, as well. Troy, U.S. champ in the house, always here every week. Big supporter of our show. We love you guys. We really do. We had a good crowd tonight. We're up to like 50 something at one point watching our stream. So good deal. Ocho, the guns are. I don't know how you do it, man. I really don't know how you do it. Never worked out in his life. It's amazing. We'll see you guys next week for episode 100. We're gonna have some surprises for you guys, and some surprises that Johnny No Show don't know about that I know about. But I won't give you any info. We'll have to find out next week. Welcome to the Gun Shows. This is Chuck Ritchie. We all have a ticket. See you next week, guys. Good night, and fuck you, Doc Sullivan.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. You can follow the show on Twitter at Straight Up 5 Pod. Follow Johnny Jr. at JPJR07. Follow Rad Rob at Rad Rob Gaming. And follow Dr. Ocho at the Dr. Ocho. Got a question for Johnny? Send your questions to straightUp5podcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. Right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.